They opened a tomb sealed for over 3,000 years, and within days, death began to spread. Coincidence? Or did the pharaohs truly guard their secrets from beyond the grave? For thousands of years, Egypt's kings ruled with power beyond imagination, their tombs sealed with gold, secrets, and solemn warnings. But in 1922, when Howard Carter uncovered the resting place of Tutankhamun, he didn't just open a door to history, he awakened something else. What followed would shake the modern world, a chain of deaths, mysteries, and unanswered questions that still echo through time. Tonight, we journey through the sands of Egypt to uncover the truth behind one of history's greatest enigmas, the curse of the Pharaohs. Imagine walking through a tomb that hasn't seen the light of day for over 3,000 years. The air is thick, heavy, almost alive, as if it remembers every secret whispered by the dead. Your torchlight flickers over walls carved with gods, serpents, and eyes that seem to follow you. Then, a single line written in hieroglyphs catches your eye, words that promise death. Death shall come on swift wings to him who disturbs the peace of the Pharaoh. That's not just a line from an ancient movie, it's real. And for more than a century, this warning, the so-called curse of the Pharaohs, has haunted archaeologists, historians, and scientists alike. But here's the question. Was it truly a curse, or something far more terrifying and real? Our story begins in 1922. After years of frustration, financial ruin, and mockery from the academic community, British archaeologist Howard Carter stood before a sealed doorway deep in Egypt's Valley of the Kings. His sponsor, Lord Carnarvon, had poured his fortune into this dig, hunting for one name, Tutankhamun. Tutankhamun wasn't a famous king like Ramses or Khufu. He was a child pharaoh, dead at 19, erased from many records and forgotten by time. But on that November morning, Carter believed he had found what everyone thought was lost forever, the untouched tomb of a pharaoh. When Carter chiseled a small hole through the plastered doorway and held up his candle, his assistant asked, trembling, "Can you see anything?" Carter whispered the most famous words in the history of archaeology. "Yes, wonderful things." Gold, jewels, statues, thrones, chariots, and behind yet another sealed door, the sarcophagus of the boy king himself. It was the discovery of the century. Newspapers around the world exploded with headlines. Egyptomania swept across Europe and America. Everyone wanted to see the golden mask of Tutankhamun. But that's when it began. Within months, whispers spread that anyone who had entered the tomb was marked for death. The first to die was Lord Carnarvon, the man who funded the expedition. Just months after the tomb was opened, he was bitten by a mosquito on his cheek. The wound became infected, and within days, he was dead. The official cause, blood poisoning from an infected insect bite. But when doctors examined his body, they found something horrifying. The bite mark on his cheek was in the same exact spot as a mark on the face of Tutankhamun's mummy. And at the very moment Carnarvon died, the lights in Cairo mysteriously went out. His dog, miles away in England, howled once and dropped dead.
Newspapers didn't call it coincidence, they called it the curse of the Pharaohs. Then came the others. Sir Archibald Douglas Reed, the radiologist who x-rayed Tutankhamun's body, dead of a sudden illness. Prince Ali Kamel Fahmy Bey, an Egyptian noble who visited the tomb, shot dead by his wife. George J. Gould, an American millionaire who had visited the site, died of pneumonia a few days later. Arthur Mace, part of the excavation team, died of arsenic poisoning. By 1929, 11 people connected to the tomb's discovery were dead. The media went wild. "The curse is real," blared the New York Times. The public devoured every eerie detail. But Howard Carter, the man who had opened the tomb, lived for 17 more years. He died peacefully in his bed at age 64. So was the curse selective? Or was it all just coincidence? Scientists tried to explain it away. Some claimed it was psychological, that the sheer fear of the curse made people sick. Others suggested toxic mold. Spores trapped inside the tomb for millennia could have caused fatal infections. But that doesn't explain the timing or the details. When Tutankhamun's mummy was examined, it bore not one, but 2 mysterious wounds, one on his leg, one on his face, both resembling marks found on those who had died after the tomb's opening. Coincidence? Or something older, darker, and far more powerful? Because long before Carter ever entered the tomb, ancient Egyptian priests had written of this kind of protection, Heka, the sacred magic of the gods. They believed that the dead pharaoh, being divine, could summon curses to protect his resting place. Tomb walls were inscribed not just with prayers, but with threats, invoking gods like Anubis, the jackal-headed guardian of the dead, to punish intruders. These were not metaphors. They were believed to be binding contracts between the world of the living and the world beyond. And when modern men, armed with shovels and greed, broke those seals, the balance might have been disturbed. Because what happened next went far beyond coincidence or infection. In the years following the tomb's opening, strange events were reported, accidents, visions, and deaths that defied explanation. Carter's canary, the first creature to enter the tomb, was eaten by a cobra the very same day, and the cobra, in Egyptian mythology, is the royal symbol, the protector of the pharaoh. Even Carter himself began to experience strange phenomena in his house, unexplained noises, objects moving on their own, the sound of footsteps when no one was there. He never spoke publicly of the curse, but in his private journals later discovered, he wrote a single haunting line: "I begin to believe there are forces beyond our understanding that guard the tombs of kings." But this was only the beginning, because what followed decades later would reignite the curse in the most chilling way possible.
Years passed after the opening of Tutankhamun's tomb. The world moved on, but the curse never really went away. It lingered like a shadow, silent, patient. Then it began again. In 1939, 17 years after the tomb's discovery, a man named Sir Bruce Ingram, one of Howard Carter's close friends, received a peculiar gift. It was a small mummified hand, mounted on a wooden plaque, with an inscription carved into it. "Cursed be he who moves my body. To him shall come fire, water, and death." At first, he thought it was a joke, a souvenir from Carter's collection. But soon after, his house mysteriously caught fire and burned to the ground. When he rebuilt it,
The new home was destroyed by a flood. Two of the most unlikely disasters back to back. And the mummified hand? It disappeared, never found again. By this time, archaeologists and scientists were desperate to find logical explanations. How could a 3,000-year-old inscription kill people? How could a long-dead king reach out from eternity? They turned to science, to microbiology. In the 1960s, Dr. Ezzeddin Taha, a prominent Egyptian pathologist, conducted experiments on ancient tombs and discovered something extraordinary: a deadly mix of bacteria and mold inside the sealed chambers. Aspergillus niger, Pseudomonas, Staphylococcus, organisms capable of causing lung failure, sepsis, and hallucinations. It was a rational answer until he died of a sudden, unexplained illness just weeks after his findings. This wasn't a fairy tale. This was the body count of the curse of Tutankhamun, because it wasn't just the researchers. It seemed it followed anyone who disturbed Egypt's sacred dead. In 1972, the Egyptian Museum in Cairo decided to send Tutankhamun's treasures to London. The artifacts were packed carefully, one by one, including the golden mask of the boy king. But days before the exhibition opened, the curator responsible for transporting the relics, Dr. Gamal Merez, died suddenly of a heart attack. He had publicly mocked the curse just days earlier. His last words, overheard by a colleague, were chilling. "The curse is nonsense. Nothing will happen." He was dead the next morning. And then came 1979. The legend reached Hollywood. The blockbuster movie The Mummy rekindled global fascination with ancient Egypt, and eerily, several cast and crew members experienced freak accidents during filming. One actor narrowly escaped a collapsing set. Another developed a mysterious illness. Coincidence? Maybe. But each time someone tried to recreate the power of the pharaohs, something seemed to strike back. There's something older than science here. Something buried in the sands long before Carter's shovel touched the stone door. You see, ancient Egyptians didn't just believe in curses, they engineered them. Inside certain tombs, inscriptions were found that weren't merely warnings. They were actual spell formulas, designed to activate protective magic. These execration texts invoked the wrath of gods like Ra, Isis, and Osiris to punish intruders. In some tombs, archaeologists found tiny clay figures buried in the walls, voodoo-like effigies of anyone who dared to disturb the tomb, their names cursed and sealed. To the priests of ancient Egypt, these weren't superstitions. They were contracts with eternity. And Tutankhamun's tomb was special. It had been hidden for 3,200 years, untouched. The priests who sealed it didn't just hide a body, they locked away divine power.
But what if the curse wasn't mystical at all? What if it was technology, something the modern world still doesn't understand? In 1996, researchers studying the tomb of Amenhotep III found traces of mercury, lead, and radon gas sealed inside the burial chambers, substances known to cause sickness, hallucinations, and even death upon exposure.
Some scientists now believe that ancient Egyptians may have deliberately placed poisonous materials in tombs as a form of biological defense. If that's true, the curse of the Pharaohs wasn't a spell. It was science, a 3,000-year-old defense mechanism. The music rises, soft chanting merges with deep, pulsing drums. But the mystery doesn't end in Egypt, because in the decades following the discovery, strange deaths began to appear across the globe, among people who had never even set foot in the Valley of the Kings, but had simply touched or owned artifacts stolen from tombs. Museum guards in London and New York, private collectors in America, even a journalist who stole a small scarab amulet from the exhibit in Paris. Each one died under bizarre, unexplained circumstances, illness, accidents, even apparent suicide. Were they victims of ancient pathogens, of guilt, or of something darker that followed the relics like a shadow across continents? In the winter of 1982, a British historian named Nicholas Reeves visited Tutankhamun's tomb. He described an overwhelming sensation, as if someone or something was watching him. When he returned to London, he woke one night gasping for air, claiming he'd dreamed of a young king staring at him with golden eyes. 3 days later, he was found unconscious in his apartment. He survived, but he never entered a tomb again. When asked why, he said only one thing: "There are places in this world where time doesn't move forward. It waits, and it remembers."
The question is, what exactly is waiting beneath Egypt's sands? A pathogen? A curse? Or the hand of history itself? Because the deeper you dig, the stranger it gets. But as the golden sands shifted, and the tombs of kings were disturbed, whispers of a curse began to haunt Egypt once more. The year was 1922. After centuries of silence, the Valley of the Kings was alive with excitement. The discovery of Tutankhamun's tomb had made the world stop and stare. Howard Carter and his team had just unearthed treasures that hadn't seen the light of day for over 3,000 years. But with the triumph came something darker, something unexplainable. Within weeks of the tomb's opening, Lord Carnarvon, the expedition's financier, was dead. A mosquito bite on his cheek became infected, and in the quiet hours of the night, his heart stopped. The lights of Cairo flickered out at the very moment he died. His dog, thousands of miles away in England, howled and dropped dead the same night. Newspapers screamed, "The curse of the Pharaohs strikes." The world was captivated. Reporters swarmed the excavation site, photographing the mysterious inscriptions carved above the entrance. "Death shall come on swift wings to him who disturbs the peace of the king." The ancient warning sent chills down every spine. One by one, others connected to the dig fell ill or met strange ends. A radiologist who examined the mummy died of radiation poisoning. An assistant collapsed in the streets of Cairo. Another man who handled the artifacts was found dead in his sleep. Was this coincidence, or the wrath of a long-dead king? Even Howard Carter, the man who led it all, was not spared. Though he lived longer than most, he suffered from mysterious illnesses and isolation. Those who knew him said he was haunted, not by guilt, but by something else. Something he couldn't name. Scientists rushed to explain it all. Ancient bacteria, desert toxins, or even radioactive materials sealed within the tomb. But for every logical answer, there was another death that defied reason. Egyptian locals believed the pharaohs had protected themselves with powerful spells, written not just in hieroglyphs, but in the very dust that lay untouched for millennia. And then a deeper question began to emerge. What if the curse wasn't just spiritual, but psychological? What if the sheer act of desecrating the tomb, the breaking of ancient taboos, triggered something in the human mind, a fear so intense that it became deadly? In the heart of Cairo, strange events began to unfold around the museum where the treasures were kept. Guards reported cold winds passing through sealed rooms. Artifacts shifted positions overnight. And one morning, a curator swore he heard the faint sound of breathing inside the glass case that held Tutankhamun's death mask. Was it imagination, or the echo of a warning thousands of years old? Even today, Egyptologists tread carefully. Many refuse to speak of the curse. Others laugh it off, claiming it's nothing more than myth. But deep within the sands of Luxor, where the pharaohs sleep beneath the stars, the air still carries an ancient heaviness, as if the desert itself remembers every trespass. And as history has shown, those who dig too deep into the secrets of the dead often find the dead reaching back.
The sun was setting over the Valley of the Kings. The sands glowed red and gold, the same hue that once shimmered on Tutankhamun's mask. Nearly a century had passed since Howard Carter pried open that ancient door, yet the mystery still lingered in the air. The curse of the pharaohs. Was it myth, or something we still didn't understand? As modern scientists revisited the case, they carried new tools, microscopes, DNA sequencing, and radiation scanners. What they found was both fascinating and eerie. Inside the sealed tombs, toxic fungi and bacteria thrived, microorganisms untouched for millennia. Some of these could cause fatal infections when inhaled. Could that explain the strange deaths that followed the excavations? Perhaps, but then what about the coincidences? The lights going out across Cairo the moment Lord Carnarvon died, the dog's mysterious death, the chain of accidents that struck those who dared to disturb the tomb? Science had no answer for that. Dr. Salima Ikram, a leading Egyptologist, once said, "There are things we can't measure. The energy of a place, the weight of time." Maybe it wasn't a curse in the supernatural sense, but a warning left by people who deeply respected the power of death. The ancient Egyptians didn't believe death was the end. To them, the tomb was a bridge between worlds, a sacred boundary. Every hieroglyph, every amulet, every spell inscribed in those walls was placed to guide the soul safely to eternity. To break that seal wasn't just archaeology, it was intrusion into the afterlife itself. And perhaps that's why the legend of the curse endures, not because of fear, but because of reverence. When visitors now stand before Tutankhamun's golden mask in the Cairo Museum, they feel something. A silence so heavy it's as if time itself has stopped. The eyes of the young king seem to stare back, not with anger, but with eternal awareness, a silent reminder that some mysteries should be uncovered only with humility. The story of the Pharaoh's curse is more than a tale of ghosts and tombs. It's a story about humanity's thirst for knowledge and the price we sometimes pay for it. From the flames that devoured the Library of Alexandria to the sands that swallowed the cities of Egypt, history whispers one eternal truth: not all secrets were meant to be found. Even now, deep beneath the shifting dunes, countless tombs remain hidden, untouched for thousands of years. Archaeologists dream of finding them, but perhaps the pharaohs are still waiting. Waiting for us to learn that knowledge and respect must walk hand in hand. Because every time we reach into the past reaches back and listens. And sometimes, when the desert wind howls through the Valley of the Kings, it almost sounds like a whisper, the whisper of the pharaohs themselves.